Hey guys, how's it going? So this video is going to be on flow, like how to flow yo-yo like a pro, something like that. When we're talking about flow, what are we actually talking about? It's kind of when there is a fluency to the tricks. Every element kind of leads in logically and seamlessly into the next one, and it just works. The player that I think of when it comes to flow is Charles Haycock. You know, he's got like all of this flowy tricks. I think another one is Daniel Kim. I really enjoy his stuff on Instagram, like it all flows. I think someone who's really kind of good at flow is Monty, the YouTuber. He's got a lot of flow as well. Now that we kind of understand what it is, how do you integrate more flow into your style? Now I'm gonna describe this with a trick. Got it! Yes! The biggest tip players normally give when they're saying, you know, how do we develop more flow? Practice more. So let's say I go back and I practice and it goes boom, 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 and then out. Yeah, it flows a hell of a lot better than my first attempt, but it's still, this is still an ugly combo. And this is where I want to get to the second point. Trick construction. You can be a pretty good yo-yo player and construct a trick terribly and it won't look like it flows. This is kind of like 3 rules for flow that I've kind of codified to try and help explain it to you guys. The first one is try to keep it moving in the same direction. The second one is when you do have to change direction, do it fast and do it fluently. The third one is that never do an element that doesn't need to be there for the logical progression of the trick. Right? If you kind of follow those 3 things, you'll understand how flow kind of works. Let me demonstrate with an example. Let's go with the same direction thing. All right, here's a trick that I don't think flows very well. So we go, all right, and you land into something like that, all right? It goes in one direction, and then it kind of artificially stops, and then you go back into another direction. It doesn't look nice, because the flow is broken. This is a very similar trick that I think flows really well. This is a Takeshi trick. Oh. See? See how this trick, right? Even though they're ultimately hitting into like a very similar formation, one of them, it goes around, and then it swings around again in the same direction, and then it lands. Whereas the other one, kind of like goes there, breaks the flow, comes back around, and then gets to the point, all right? Yes, there's a reason why it goes there, because then you can do that other whip, but it doesn't look nice. So when you can, try to keep things all moving in the same direction. And you know, now that I think about it, another player that has incredible flow is Takeshi. Now, that's kind of like a slack trick, and that's kind of like, all right, I can grasp it from a slack, but what happens if it's in like a kind of formation point of view? It doesn't look nice because it goes down, up into here, then goes back around, and like, the direction's all wrong. Here's a trick that I think flows really well, which is a similar amount, right? You go 1, right? And then into the back, and it's 2, right? And it hits the back, and it's 3, right? Now, even though it's kind of in like a techie formation, it's like 1, 2, 3, like it flows in one single direction. Because it's like, this thing leads to the next, and leads to the next thing, right? Whereas this, it's like, it goes up, it goes out, it goes on, and it goes back, right? Okay, so let's try and integrate a few of that into this. Something how you would make this flow a little bit better is 1, and you kind of just don't make this a big thing about it. You just kind of like naturally slide that in and then land there. All right, see, already, by cutting out all the extraneous filler and just going, it already looks like it flows better. Whoops, kind of missed that, but you guys get the point, right? Now, when I say that, there's gonna be yo-yo players gonna be like, all right, Brandon, that is completely impractical. It would be so boring if all my tricks did was go in one single direction. How do I direction change? Okay, when you do need a direction change, which you do, like, look at this, like this is a combo that, like, yeah, there's a lot of direction changes. And when you need to do it, you need to think about 2 things. You need to think about changing the direction fast and changing the direction fluently. Allow me to explain. Speed and fluency comes down to skill, right? This is why if you're a seasoned yo-yo player, you can make a trick look really nice Whereas if someone's doing the exact same trick, it just doesn't look as nice because you're doing it fast, you're doing it fluently. However, there is also an element of trick construction into this. Here's an example of one of my own tricks that I don't think flows really well. Here, take a look at this, right? Alright, now I'll practice this trick a lot. Like I'm at a particular level where it's like, yeah, it's cool. And it kind of flows, but it can be done a lot better. So this is Takeshi's version. It's kind of like it's similar, right? See how much nicer that flows? I'm the same person. I have the similar level of skill. But because of how Takeshi's is constructed, it's just so much faster, right? And it flows better because mine, you have to land here, you have to get the rejection out, you gotta land into there, and even if I do all those three seamlessly, I will never get it as smooth as Takeshi's because it's inbuilt into the trick. When you're constructing your trick, make sure that when you do a direction change, it's something that is inbuilt, that's fast, right? I can never, like if I swing this fast, right? Swing and then swing fast, I can't make that as fast looking because when I swing it, it then has to come back down, right? Whereas with the other trick, if I do that direction change, boom, boom, it flows instantly into the back string, right? I don't have to kind of like wait for it to kind of settle into the back string. It hits the back string. But you guys get it, right? So it's this idea of like, one, if I'm gonna go to the back, if I have to do, how can I make a fast direction change? Boom, there we go. And then this is gonna lead into a triangle, which I'm gonna explain very soon. But it follows those rules, all right? Logical, fast direction change. Now the third rule is never do something that doesn't need to be done, right? So we got rid of all of this kind of extraneous kind of stuff there, all right? So that follows that rule. We got rid of all of that extraneous stuff. And the second extraneous thing is there is a purpose as to why it hits that back string because then it allows me to do that, all right? Whereas in this one, there's the only purpose for me to go back is to come back around and to go back to where I kind of started in the first place. It's a boring kind of formation. I could really just do that, and then it would kind of tell the same story, right? So that's why. So let's kind of go back to all this. Now, what we've talked about flow, right? So when you try to keep it moving in the same direction, when you change directions, make it fluent and fast. But what about when you break flow? And this is something I don't think is talked enough about because everyone's like, oh my god, his flow is so good. But flow is only good when it's contrasted with something else. It stops the yo-yo dead in its tracks, right? It doesn't move anymore. Why does that look cool? If I wanted to make that flow, I could probably do like, and do it something like that, right? And that kind of still looks cool in its own right, but it doesn't look as cool as like, boom, you know? It doesn't look as cool. And that's because you break the flow. And when you break the flow, it's kind of like, woo, boom, and you kind of create a suspense to it. So again, with this trick, we're going around, all right, there's no flow in it whatsoever, but it does eventually end in this kind of green triangle. And this is kind of like the climactic ending to this awful combo. And then you kind of like untwist it and wrap it around. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do something similar, but I'm gonna do it in a bit more, slightly more sophisticated way. So here, 1, 2, and then boom, right? It still stops, right? That last triangle, it's not a flowy element. It's a snappy element, right? It locks that yo-yo into place. If I wanted it to be flowy, I could really do something like that. Or like, But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to break the flow I've kind of established before. So it's one, that fast direction change, and then boom, right? And that is how you transform your like terrible beginning combo that we started with into a better combo. And the first step is practice. You need to be able to be very comfortable with those elements in order to do them, right? That's not enough because you need to understand trick construction. So the first rule is try to keep it moving into the same direction. So 1, cut out all the extraneous details, right? So we cut out all of that, ugh. We cut that out and have everything kind of, if you have to do a direction change, make it for a reason. And then know when to break the flow, which is normally at the end of the combo, know when to break it. And that is pretty much how you flow like a pro. If you guys like this Like a Pro series, comment down below. Give me ideas on what you want me to kind of break down next. And that's it for today. So I've got a few other videos. I've got how to bind like a pro, how to throw a breakaway like a pro. And that's it from me. Any comments, questions, criticisms, post them down below. And I will see you guys next time.